Chapter 1. The Storm on Rhinox 7. Rhinox 7 was a harsh, inhospitable world. A remote planet, barely charted by galactic explorers. It was known for its intense storms and freezing temperatures. As a mining engineer working on the planet's surface, I had grown accustomed to the cold, but nothing could prepare me for the vicious blizzard that struck that evening. I was alone in my small tent, nestled deep in the mining camp, when the storm hit. Winds howled, and the snow seemed to fall in blinding sheets, making visibility almost impossible. I had just finished a long shift at the Ermines, and my body was exhausted. But even after the long day, I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that something was off. The weather had turned colder than usual, and the wind was stronger than I had ever felt before. It wasn't just the weather that concerned me. I could sense the camp had gone eerily silent. Usually, the miners were up late, preparing for the next shift or engaging in idle chatter. But not tonight. I decided to step outside to check on things, hoping to make sure the perimeter of the camp was secure and the generator was still running smoothly. As I walked toward the generator, I noticed something strange, movement on the outskirts of the camp. At first, I thought it was a wild creature caught in the storm, but as I got closer, I realized it was a person. A woman. Barely visible through the thick storm, she was stumbling through the snow, her movements slow and erratic. Her form was alien, unlike anything I had ever seen before. She had slender, angular features, a shock of silver-white hair that was practically blowing in the wind, and skin that seemed to shimmer with an ethereal glow. She was shivering uncontrollably, her small form barely able to fight the brutal cold. I didn't hesitate. I ran toward her, my heart pounding. I reached her just as her legs gave out, and she collapsed into the snow, nearly unconscious. Chapter 2. An Unexpected Visitor. I could feel the icy chill radiating off her body, and I quickly scooped her up, wrapping her in my coat to shield her from the cold. She was shivering violently, her breath shallow. I needed to get her back to my tent fast. I carried her as quickly as I could, my legs aching with each step, until we finally made it to the shelter. Inside the tent, I placed her down on the cot, hurriedly lighting the small heating unit. As the warmth began to fill the small space, I checked her for injuries. There were none, but she was still trembling, her skin dangerously cold to the touch. I knew I had to warm her up, but I also knew there was no easy task. The air in the tent wasn't nearly warm enough to counteract the biting cold of the storm outside. My first instinct was to try and wrap her in blankets, but there was something about the way she looked at me, her eyes wide and her gaze unblinking, that made me hesitate. She was aware of her surroundings now, but she wasn't speaking. She had an almost ethereal quality to her, her movements slow, deliberate, and somehow graceful even in her weakened state. I knelt beside her, still unsure of what to do. I don't know who you are or where you came from, I said, trying to keep my voice calm. But you need warmth. You're freezing. For a moment, she didn't respond, and I thought maybe she didn't understand. But then, she slowly reached her hand toward me. Her skin was cold to the touch, but there was something strange about it, an almost imperceptible hum, a vibration that ran through me as soon as our skin made contact. Her voice came in a soft, almost melodic whisper. I am Kira, from Ireland. Her accent was unfamiliar, her words broken and uncertain, but I understood enough to know that she was in a dire state. I'll help you, I said. You're safe now. She looked at me with an expression of deep gratitude, her golden eyes filled with a mix of exhaustion and something else, something that seemed to resonate with me on a level I couldn't understand. There was something about her presence, about her very being, that felt almost otherworldly. Chapter 3. The Unfathomable Connection. The storm outside howled with increasing ferocity as the hours passed. As Kira lay on the cot, I worked to warm her, wrapping blankets around her, making sure she stayed as close to the heating unit as possible. As she slowly regained her strength, I offered her water, which she accepted, though her hand was still shaky as she held the cup. Her body seemed to accept the warmth, but there was a strange energy about her. The longer she stayed in my tent, the more I felt this connection to her. It was subtle at first, just a feeling, but it soon became overwhelming. Every time I touched her, every time I looked in her eyes, I felt as though I was being drawn deeper into something I couldn't explain. It was like her presence was altering the very fabric of the air around us. She looked up at me, her golden eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. "Thank you," she said again, her voice clearer now, though still soft. "You have saved me." I shook my head, feeling embarrassed. "I just brought you in out of the storm." "No," she replied, her gaze intense. "You do not understand. I am not just a traveler. I am from a different realm, a different place." Before she could finish, there was a sudden, sharp pulse of energy that shot through the room, and I felt a wave of dizziness wash over me. The very air in the tent seemed to hum with a strange frequency, and I could feel something shifting, like reality itself was bending. Kira's hand reached out for mine, her touch warm now, but pulsing with an unfamiliar energy. "I am bound to you now," she whispered. "In a way, you will never understand, but you will feel it. I am more than what you see." Chapter 4. The Shocking Truth. As the days passed, I began to realize that Kira's presence was changing me. I felt stronger, more attuned to my surroundings, and at times, I could sense things I couldn't explain. It was as if her very being, her connection to another realm, was slowly merging with mine. One night, as we sat by the fire in the tent, she finally told me the truth. "I am not just an alien," she said, her voice filled with a strange resonance. "I am part of an ancient race, beings who exist across multiple dimensions. My mission was to come here to connect with a human who could help me with a great task. I sought you, Captain Reid. You are the one." I was stunned. "What task? What do you mean by help me?" "I have seen glimpses of the future, of the world you are about to face," she said. "The storm that brought me here is no accident. You and I have a destiny together, a destiny that will change the future of your species. Together, we must stop what is coming." As the fire crackled in the background, I realized that my life had just taken a turn that no one could have predicted. I had brought an alien into my tent to keep her warm, and in doing so, I had unknowingly tied my fate to hers. The storm outside had brought her to me, but it was clear now. Our meeting was no mere coincidence. We were connected, bound by something greater than ourselves. What lay ahead would be far more than I could have ever imagined.